Hello everybody, it's been a long time since my last video. I hope everybody's doing well, and I'm gonna see if I can do 2 or 3 quite close to each other to make up for that. So in Canada, the tide is turning with regards to the pandemic. Currently, I think 75% of people eligible to get vaccines have at least received the first vaccine. I'm not sure what the percentage is of people receiving their second doses yet. I've personally been vaccinated fully for about a month and I'm feeling good. As the title implies, let's look at accommodation, specifically looking at the Vancouver region. So arriving in Canada, you will most likely be renting at first unless you are coming over with a lot of bond. The main property listings we made use of when we got here was, I'll throw the links in the description. It was Zumper, Kijiji, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and of course you can also contact the big estate agents and throw your details out there, see what listings they have available. Something I was warned about both by reading on the internet as well as from my colleagues and some of the blogs I was watching is to be aware of scams. If something sounds way too good to be true, there's a good chance it is too good to be true and you might get scammed. Be very careful of anything that asks you for your SIN or social insurance number unless it's the bank or your workplace. So typically in Canada, the deposit when you are renting is half a month's rent up to a month. I haven't really seen more than that. I've heard of people asking more of that, but that seems to be the norm. You can also get lucky. Sometimes they've got some incentives, in which case they might advertise first month free, which basically just means you're either not paying rent that first month or you don't need to pay any deposit. So the types of properties to rent in Vancouver, obviously you've got your freestanding houses. A typical house in Vancouver has got 3 levels. It's basically a basement level, then you've got your main floor, and then you've got almost not necessarily the attic, but a top floor, and some might even have an attic space. If you rent a complete place like that in Vancouver, you're going to be paying a lot of money. The typical thing people will do is subdivide the house. So they'll make the top floor available, they make the main floor available, and they'll make the basement available. When you rent a place like that, try and listen when you go looking at the place for how well sound travels through the floors. Some places put in extra effort to make sure it's very well insulated from sound. Typically the basement suites are quite large in comparison to apartments or even sometimes a main floor, and typically there are 3 bedrooms. However, the basement suites are typically underground, so not completely underground, but some of it, and you might have windows like this, smaller windows, obviously not this small, but small windows towards the higher end of the house, so you might feel a bit constrained in there. That's part of the reason we did not go for that. Your better basement suite options would typically have an entrance that is on ground level, so there you have full-size windows, and then towards the back it might go into the ground, so the back might be quite dark, but the front might be actually quite open like any other house. Just another thing on basement suites, keep in mind, winter months here, there's not a lot of light. Your days are very short. It's very rainy and wet, so it's even darker on top of the normal darkness when it's not cloudy. So a basement suite in the winter can be quite depressing, dark, might even be damp. So an alternative to renting a full freestanding house at quite a high cost is looking at something like a laneway home. A laneway home is almost like a granny flat that will be available in South Africa. It's a house that's typically in the backyard and it faces the laneway, as they call it here. Basically it's an alley separating the back of 2 rows of houses. So you've got a street, you've got a row of houses, then you've got the laneway, then you've got a row of houses, and you've got the next street. A lot of people have the entrance to their garages in the laneway, and typically this laneway house is either built on top of a garage or in the space a double garage would be. It is typically 2 floors with your kitchen and living area down below, and then your bathroom and 2 bedrooms upstairs. So this is a good alternative if you want your own space. Obviously you'll be sharing a yard, or you'll be sharing some space with whoever's staying in the main house, which could be more than one family. So there's an alternative to a freestanding house that's affordable as well. So lastly, you have your condos or apartments. To be honest, I'm not 100% sure what the difference really is. I think a condo typically has more features within the building. Could be wrong, but from the ads it looks very similar. These often have shared spaces within the building where you would be saving on other things you might have to pay for. A lot of these places, condos, will have a gym. They will typically have something like a sauna or steam room that you can share. Some might have an indoor pool as well, and in some of the places has an outdoor pool. Some of them has both. So these are all things that's nice to look at, nice to have. Even though you're confined to a smaller space perhaps within a building, at least you've got access to these places. The condos and apartments would also typically have bike sheds where you can park your bike, and then most of them has got some underground parking available. Typically this comes at an extra fee, sometimes it's included if you're lucky. Something else you get, typically you have to pay extra for this as well, is a storage area or storage cage. I have a small one, but you can also rent a bigger one in our building. And this is quite handy, say you've got toys like a snowboard or your luggage for instance. It's all stuff you can store there and yeah, get it out when you actually need it. So one thing that's nice in Vancouver when you rent a place, there's a lot of things included that typically you have to move along with you in a place like South Africa. So the things that are included is most of your kitchen appliances, your microwave, refrigerator, oven, stove. A lot of places like ours has got a dishwasher, and then you'll have a washer dryer in a lot of places. If you don't have a washer dryer included, there will typically be a shared laundry within your building, but we are lucky enough to have a washer dryer, a massive washer dryer in one of the closets. Now, sometimes you rent directly from an owner, it's a private owner, but then you also get buildings like ours that is developed and the developers rent out the units. So there's no private owners, you're basically renting from the development group or property group. And a nice thing is, obviously they maintain it nicely, everybody falls under the same landlord, and like in our building, everything is whirlpool, from the oven to the laundry, everything is whirlpool products. Yeah, so you might go to a place and they'll have Miele or they'll have Samsung or whatever. They'll have some brand they stick with to keep continuity throughout. So if you move into Vancouver, you probably have done your research and you might have seen property is super expensive and rentals are expensive here. And it's probably similar to Toronto, but definitely higher than the rest of the country. So typically for a 2-bedroom place, you'll be paying in the region of 2,000 to 3,000 Canadian dollars. And this is when you're in Vancouver. When you're in Vancouver proper, so not like in Richmond, Burnaby. When you're in the Vancouver area, like downtown Vancouver will be on the higher end. That's where the prices are at their highest for the smaller space. And as you move further away, the prices come down slightly. You might be lucky and get something at a lower price point from a private owner, but these are rare and they go quickly. If you look at the areas outside Vancouver proper, such as Burnaby, Richmond, Coquitlam, I always screw up that name, Delta, Langley, Surrey. If you look at those places, you can definitely get something better in that 2,000 to 3,000 range. But obviously the payoff is you're gonna have to commute if you work within Vancouver. Places like Burnaby, Coquitlam, Richmond, they're all connected via the Sky train, I believe. So if you stay near one of those stations, if you live out there, it can definitely be to your benefit and you can definitely make it work. So just to touch briefly on actual buying of property in Vancouver, obviously it is super expensive. You will buy a dilapidated house basically just to get a piece of land, and that's going to be in the region of $1.2 million. That is a lot of money for a house that you're basically going to have to flatten and rebuild. If it's something that's been renovated and you can move in and live there, you are looking at almost $2 million for a freestanding house in Vancouver. And the market is so crazy that, say somebody comes in with an asking price of $1 million, that house is probably going to sell for about $1.2, $1.3 million. The people are rushing the prices up. It's not like what I was used to in South Africa. If you want 1 million for your house, you'll ask 1.2 million because they are gonna want to come down. If you don't come down, nobody's gonna buy it. I'm sure there are exceptions in South Africa, but generally you start up here and you end down here. You're not gonna start here and shoot through the roof. But that is what the situation is here. Part of it is the interest rates are ridiculously low, even for Canada. I mean, if you tell somebody they can get a 4% interest rate in South Africa, they would take it gladly. Over here, people are getting interest rates as low as 1%, which is totally ridiculous in my mind. But yeah, if you've got the money, it's a fantastic time to buy with interest rates that low, especially if you can lock it in for a couple of years. So that's basically it. With regards to accommodation, I'm no expert. That's just my experience since I've been in Canada and what I've observed. I'm sure there's people that's been here longer and might have better advice or something to add or correct me somewhere. Please do in the comment section. I do not mind at all. If this was helpful, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more of my videos, and if you know of somebody that might find this useful, share it with them. And if you see the sweat coming down my forehead, it's because it is 30 degrees in this room at the moment. I had to close the doors and windows to keep the sound out, and the sun really bakes this room. It's hot, this room in the house, and it's 30 degrees outside as well today. So yes, it can get hot in Vancouver, Canada, and I'm not complaining at all because winter sucks, besides the skiing, but the cold sucks and the long dark days sucks. So these days when the sun is setting 9:30 in the evening and you still have some light outside at 10 in the evening, make the most of it, please. Anyway, in the meantime, please stay safe and we'll chat again soon. Have a good one. Bye bye.